Okay, hi. So I see you signed the form.
Yes.
And do you have any questions about that?
No, everything was pretty well explained.
Okay, good. Well, I am a graduate student, so I'm very new at this, and this is the first time I'm going to do this. So the first thing I want to do is get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell me something about yourself, what you're doing, your family, where you're from, that kind of thing?
Okay. So I'm a senior at Mason. I'll be graduating in May with a psychology degree, and I'm minoring in human development and family science. From Virginia Beach, Virginia, so about 4 hours south of here. The oldest of 3 girls, so I have a sister who's a freshman at James Madison, and I have a little sister who is 11 years old. Both my parents are in the education system, and they have been ever since they graduated from college. And I'm very close with my family. And here on campus, I'm a senior peer advisor, so I co-teach the University 100 freshman transition courses on campus. And I also supervise my fellow peer advisors in that role as well. And I've been doing that since my sophomore year. And I also work for the Alumni Relations Office.
Okay, I see you're busy. Okay. So how did your parents influence your career goal?
Well, it's kind of funny. My parents don't want me to be involved in education because they know how difficult the system is. But going to college was never a question. It was more so, where am I going, not am I going?
Right.
It was never, I just grew up thinking that everybody went to college. And so when I came to Mason, I was exposed to the first generation population
Okay.
of students whose parents did not go to college or they didn't finish their degree.
Okay.
And so my parents have been very hands-on in my education. I talk to them almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Definitely not your traditional setup that you would have for a college student, but we're very close and have gotten a lot closer since I've moved away from home to come here.
Okay, that's great. So what brings you here today?
Well, I'm here just to discuss some kind of issues I've been having trying to figure out post-grad life, so it's been really stressing me out lately. Some back and forth with my parents concerning a gap year and what program I should go into.
Okay.
So it's just a lot of confusion and trying to figure out what's next.
Okay, so what do your parents think?
They want me to go straight through.
Okay.
No breaks, because it's always harder to go back once you have left school.
Okay.
And so they really encouraged me to just go straight to grad school right after I graduate in May.
Okay, you planning on going here?
I plan on applying, but not necessarily going to Mason. I really like the area, but I think that it would be better for me to get to know a different area, most likely still in Virginia, but just a different area of Virginia.
Oh, you have any areas in mind?
So kind of, I'm trying to think, a little bit down south, and then in the area where Tech and UVA are.
Okay.
So kind of going west a little bit.
Okay. Okay. So what kind of jobs do your parents, what in education do your parents do?
So my mom is a social worker at a handicapped preschool,
Okay.
and my dad he's been acting as the superintendent of Norfolk Public Schools for the past few months, and then he'll be going back to the chief operations officer of the school system.
Okay. So what exactly are their concerns with you staying in education?
Because it's such a difficult system to work in, and dealing with other people. I'm sorry.
In what way?
So dealing with other people and how the pay isn't always that great, and there's so much schooling that's required before you can really have a respectable job in the education field, and then there's no guarantee with those jobs most of the time, especially when I was considering teaching. They were very against that because they know how disposable some school systems view teachers as. So just concern for me having real stability.
Okay. And how do you feel?
Education is the only place I've been able to see myself in since high school.
Okay.
I was very involved in high school, came to Mason and kept that trend going. Not really interested in, medical fields or things like that. Have considered law in the past. My dad really wants me to go to law school, but I feel like I'm intimidated by that in a sense. Not that I don't think I could do it, but I think it'd just be a lot of work. But more so education is probably where I can see myself the most.
Okay. So in education, what exactly do you want to do?
That's where it gets complicated because there's
Okay.
so many things you could do.
Okay,
And a lot of the time it's hard to move up in administration if you don't have teaching experience first.
okay,
So with my dad, he majored in accounting for undergrad, so he's taken the money route, so you don't really have to have classroom experience for that, but
right,
it can hold you back in a sense. By being a superintendent, they want you to have classroom experience. And he's had college classroom experience as an adjunct, but not grade school level.
okay,
So that's one thing that I've considered is teaching. But really the administrative part, I feel like I'm really strong administratively.
okay,
Not to say I can't connect with students, but even in my peer advisor role, I've had supervisors and the people that I co-teach would say that I'm very strong when it comes to administrative tasks.
okay.
So I believe I could do really well in that field.
Okay, so you want to, administratively, you could be like a principal, superintendent, do you want to work in schools, or is it the education piece you're interested in? Because you can administer lots of places, yeah, what do you like about that?
I really like the school setting. I feel like it's just great to watch students grow and develop and to be able to work with them in that. And
Mhm.
also working with their parents. Being in the public school system and the part of Virginia Beach that I'm from, there are really nice neighborhoods, and then I also went to school with kids who were on free or reduced lunch. So seeing how their parents influence their education,
Mhm.
my parents would study with me and make sure I did my homework, and some students' parents didn't look at their report cards. So I think it's really important to kind of be that catalyst for someone to encourage them to want to do well in school. So that's probably one of my biggest reasons why I'm so interested in education.
Okay, okay. What about advocacy or something like along that line? Have you thought about that?
I have, and I think that's where the public administration piece will come into play, or even law. So education law is not really talked about, but it is out there,
Mm-hmm.
and family law. So I feel like that could have something to do with education as well. So I
Okay.
feel like advocacy could come into play in that piece.
Okay.
But there's like so many aspects of education that I have yet to explore. So I'm kind of lost as to what would be best.
Okay, so if you were to take a year off
Mhm.
before grad school, what would you do?
Definitely move back home, just in an effort to save money, but also work for the city. So during the summer before my junior year and my sophomore year, I was an intern with the city of Norfolk, and that was actually more government work. Surprisingly, because I'm not really fond of that, but it was an internship program that I just placed into, and so I would most likely go back to work with that program again, and to get more administration experience.
And what did you do there? What was that?
So the first year, I was really just office help, so the internship program goes based off of your age level.
Mhm.
So because I started school a year early, I was only 18 at the end of my freshman year,
Mhm.
so I was still lumped in with the high school kids internships. So I did a lot of administrative work for the waste and water treatment plant of the city of Norfolk.
Okay.
And then my second year in the program, I was on a team and we had to put together a communications review for one of the departments of the city. And so a lot of that work was going out, talking to different offices around the city, collecting information as to how we can better rebrand the city.
Okay.
So I always found it interesting how none of my work has really been education focused. It's always been really like administratively focused.
Okay.
So it's very interesting to see how that's played out as I'm trying to figure out what's next.
So is that why you like the administration piece, because you're having some experience with that?
Actually,
Or-
I always felt I identified more with education,
Mhm.
but now that I see I've had so much experience, I'm more comfortable in the administration role.
Okay.
I've worked with youth before, but sometimes I feel like I don't have that connection that people tend to talk about having when they work with youth.
Mhm.
Not to say we don't get along, but my strength is in making sure people are getting to a certain place at a certain time.
Okay.
And again, working in the classroom with kids has gone well for me, but I've always felt more comfortable kind of just making sure documents are in order and making sure schedules are the way they're supposed to be and things like that.
Okay. Okay. So when you go to grad school, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna major in?
So most likely leaning towards public administration.
Okay.
Been researching some programs that have specific concentrations, but I'm still doing some research at the time, so still
Okay.
trying to figure that out.
Okay. So, why do you want to take a break?
Because I feel like I'm rushing into choosing a program. Most of my time in college, I changed my major like 5 times, so
Okay.
it's not easy for me to figure out what it is that I want to do. And when I did decide on psychology, I was completely sold on it, and I've never ever wanted to change my major since.
Okay.
And it's not like college, you can't go undeclared, or
Yes,
you apply to a program, because every program's admissions are different almost. So I just don't want to be in a program and realize that it's the wrong one.
Okay.
So a lot more money, a lot more resources are being spent. So I just don't want to rush into something.
So, if you were to explain to me the different things that you're interested in, like if you had 3 or 4 different programs that you were looking at, what would you be looking? How similar are they? What would you be looking at?
Well, in the past I was looking at an applied developmental science program. So I took developmental psychology, and that's probably one of my favorite classes ever.
Okay.
So focusing on how humans develop. And I've also looked into a program dealing with human development and leadership.
Okay.
So again, that human development aspect, and then just since I've been in high school, I've always been in leadership roles, so I feel like that just comes naturally.
So what would you do in human development leadership?
As far as the master's
Like
program
the job,
or
yeah.
the job, I feel like it could be applied in so many ways, but again, it will probably be more administratively or human resources
Okay.
wise. So helping with harmony on the job, having the psychology background, I feel like
Okay.
it could be helpful.
Okay.
And again, with the public administration piece, that's more government focused, but also people focused.
Okay.
So how can we make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do, but also being happy and feeling satisfied in whatever job they have?
Okay, that's not education.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, what else are you looking into?
I've looked into some higher education programs, and again, I don't want to limit myself in getting a master's in education. Not to say it's not a good degree to have, but I do know a few faculty here on campus who have MPAs and are working at the university setting.
Okay.
So I feel like it's more versatile than a master's in education
Okay.
would go. And I also feel like that might be just my comfort level. Like all I really wanted to do is education, so kind of looking into that just because it would be comfortable for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, what are your parents? How much influence they have over what you decide to do?
They have a lot, but my dad didn't want me to be a psychology major, so he wanted me to do public administration. And our agreement became psychology with a minor in English, and that didn't happen either.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, we were talking on the phone the other day, and he was like, I don't even know what you're studying up there. And I'm like, I'm coming out in May, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
My mom is really the one who's like, whatever you want to do that makes you happy, just make sure you can get a job. Because she doesn't want me to just like come home and not do anything, which I don't want to do either. But they do have an influence, I would say, like helping me pick my classes and things like that. But they do allow me to have the flexibility to say, okay, I want to be a psych major. I know it's not what you want, but I'm going to excel in this, as opposed to struggling when I was a public administration major.
Okay. What were your other majors? Where'd you start at?
So I started with public admin, and then
Okay.
I went undeclared, and then I
Okay.
went to English,
Okay.
and went back to undeclared, and then I was gonna do public administration again, took a few classes, really struggled on them, got C's in 2 of them and a B in another, and I just knew I couldn't do that. So then that's when psychology happened, and that was spring of my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I did the same thing.
Really?
I was art, and then I went to accounting, and then I thought about literature and ended up in psychology once I took my first class.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, so your dilemma is whether to take a year off or not, okay, and your parents aren't really okay with that, they want you to keep going. Have you looked at any other classes that might be in the areas you're kind of interested in, that you could kind of stick your toe in and see if that's a good direction for you?
So I just registered for classes yesterday, actually, and so I'm
Okay.
taking one education class that's talking about some of the special populations in education, so diversity-wise and disabilities and things like that. And then I'm also taking a leading diversity class in the spring semester. So I think that kind of ties into the human development and kind of public administration piece, just
Okay.
because in the way the world is today, you have to know how to deal with diverse populations.
Okay.
But other than that, not so much. Everything else is pretty psychology focused or just focused on my minor.
Okay. So if you took a year off, would you consider taking classes or doing things just to, how would you explore, so you can make a comfortable decision going into grad school and actually picking a program?
I think I would explore first by going back to the city I was working for, so Norfolk, because I was doing government work there,
Okay.
and seeing if I'm still interested in it, because when I was working there before, I couldn't wait for the internship to be over.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's because I was kind of closed-minded to it, or I was just ready to come back to school, or whatever it was. But also, I've been looking into a local university back at home who would let you sample public administration degree classes.
Okay.
So the way they have it set up is come see if you like it. If not, don't, of course, don't pursue it, but offering some sample courses that aren't as difficult, but still touch on the material. So I thought that that would be useful if I did decide to go that route.
Okay. Do they allow you just to audit classes too, and just kind of go and?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Some of them were kind of sampling, the public government force, workforce type things, and then some finance classes as well, but just going in there to see if you like it or not.
Okay. Okay. So tell me a little bit about what you did in high school.
So in high school, I was student body president my senior year.
Okay.
So that was, student body is different from college in the sense that we did more of homecoming dances and fun activities and stuff. It wasn't real school policy type things like you have here. Also involved in yearbook and our African American Culture Society, a couple other organizations that I was a part of, and my first 2 years of high school or so, I was really involved in my home church, so also doing activities and things there. But my focus was more so on the organization of like fun activities, not really serious or policy type things.
Okay. So what do you like more, like policy type things? Or?
I haven't, as a senior peer advisor, there has been some policy, but it's more so making sure other PAs are doing what it is that they should be doing, fulfilling their contract. So there's some policy there, and I think I've gotten experience with, and I really like it. Planning activities and events is fun, but I wouldn't want to be like I wouldn't want to be like a wedding planner or a advisor for, a student organization. They're fun to do, but I wouldn't want to
Do that.
plan those for a living.
Yeah. So what does a peer advisor do exactly?
So we're co-teaching the University 100 freshman transition courses, so talking about money management, time management, stress skills, things like that with a faculty member on campus. So it's kind of like the student and the adult perspective, both in the classroom.
Okay.
And so we lead lessons, we teach, we create lesson plans with them, and we also are responsible for a lot of the grading and just overall instruction in the classroom, and making sure we're reaching out to the students so they're having a good transition at Mason.
Okay. So how do students learn about these people?
So we are at orientation over the summer, so the day before they register for classes, we have a booth set up at every orientation, so they can learn about our program. It's not required, so some schools make this a mandatory class, but it's an elective at Mason. So it's really up to word of mouth, the website. Honestly, 50% of our students take it because they heard about it from us, but a lot of them take it because their parents told them to.
Okay.
Because parents love this class. They're just like, okay, somebody's gonna help you transition while I'm not there to help you.
Right, right.
So that's mainly how they hear about it.
Okay. How'd you transition coming here?
I had a really hard transition at
Mhm.
Mason. My dad likes to pick on me about this now, but I used to call my parents crying every day for like 2 months. I had a really hard time just being away from home, and I wasn't expecting it because my last 2 years of high school, I was almost never at home
Right.
because I was so busy. And I also came into Mason with my high school boyfriend,
Mhm.
and he also attends Mason, so it was very difficult expecting the transition to go one way, and then it didn't go that way,
Okay.
which led to the relationship ending, and that was fall of my freshman year.
Okay.
So it was really hard, but eventually I found an organization, Patriot Activities Council, which is a lot like the organization I led in high school, planning activities, things like that. So that was my first step into transitioning. At Mason, academically, I did really great, made Dean's List my first semester, but I would go to class and come back to the room and like lost weight because I didn't want to eat, I didn't have an appetite. So by the spring, I made like a complete 180, but it was a very, very difficult transition that first semester.
Okay. Have you gotten used to being away from home now?
I think so, but I find myself wanting to go home more often now.
Mhm.
The older I get, like I can't wait for Thanksgiving break and winter break. But I still miss home sometimes, but if I'm there long enough, I'm ready to come back here.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot easier.
Okay. So how do you think your transition would be going to another college? Do you think you'd have an easier time, or would you?
I think it depends on where.
Mhm.
So, researching grad schools, I've been shying away from out of state, mainly because of tuition, one, and then two, I just don't see myself going all the way out there. And I studied abroad at the beginning of the year for 2 weeks in Rome.
Okay.
And so that made me more comfortable with stepping outside of my comfort zone. But I think I would have a rough time being in a new area as opposed to a new school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how easy do you make friends? Do you, or you said, do you have time for friends?
I do, barely. My mom always says out of me and my 3 sisters, I'm the one that she worries about the most when it comes to making friends and adjusting.
Mhm.
It takes me a long time to warm up to people.
Okay.
Once I do, it's like we've been friends forever, but it's really hard for me to really make friends quickly. So thinking about transitioning to a new school, I feel like I would have people that I could go grab lunch with,
Mhm.
but it would take a while for that to transition to someone I would consider a real friend.
Okay. Because you seem very outgoing.
Well,
Yeah.
my Myers-Briggs is like an I, but it's slight. So I
Okay,
can go
you're
like,
in the middle.
Mhm.
I'm that way too.
Yeah.
I can go either direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you need social stimulation, and then you need quiet to kind of come down from that, and then you have too much quiet and you gotta get out?
Kinda. I mean,
Kinda.
I'm so content with just sitting at my house by myself sometimes. I live
Mhm.
off campus. So it's been a transition in that just not having, I do have housemates, but I'm only friends with one of them.
Okay.
So it's been a transition, not just being able to walk around the corner and go to one of my friends' rooms. But I really enjoy being by myself. Sometimes I really crave being around people, but I'd rather be in my bed. If I'm at a social event, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go home now. I think that's my ultimate preference, is just having some alone time to recharge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you want to work with people.
Yes, so I do
Yes.
want to work with people. I find myself, like, if it's been a long day, I'm just like, I've been around people too long, I have to retreat
Okay.
for the night or something like that. I do thrive off of working with other people. I prefer that most
Mhm.
times, unless it's academically. I don't really care for group projects.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm with you on that one.
But I mean, I'd rather go to Southside with some friends and go sit by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you seem really close to your parents.
Mhm.
So if you got a job, would you move back close to them, or would you?
I would want to move back home, so like in the actual
Okay.
house.
Okay.
And the other night, my dad was like, "No, that's not gonna happen,"
Okay.
which I'm not really taking seriously, but
Mhm.
I feel like if I were to move home, it wouldn't be easy. So there would be some type of agreement there where I have to work, I have to do, of course, working, paying for my own gas, of course. Food, it would just be me and my younger sister there, so that might not be as much as a struggle. But I just think there would be more responsibility as far as just little things go at home.
Okay. How do your siblings, are your siblings very close to your parents? Are you very tight, all of you?
For the most part, so my middle sister, Alyssa, she's very much her own person, so she left for JMU, this is her first semester, and she hasn't missed home once.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a little sad when they first pulled off, but she is very social. She rarely talks to my parents. She'll talk to them if they call her, but she doesn't call them as much. And then Elena, she's very attached to my mom. That's the 11-year-old. So the baby of the family, very attached to my mom. Very happy that me and my other sister are gone. She gets my parents to herself now. But Elena and I talk like every day, multiple times a day. Because we have like a sister relationship, but also like a mom-daughter relationship because we have such an age gap. But I like to consider us a close family for the most part. My dad's very quiet, just because of the way he was raised. But he can be out there with us when he wants to. So.
Okay. Are you close to your sister at JMU too? Or is she just kind of like that?
We've gotten closer. We used to argue a lot growing up. Probably up until I moved out. We started getting along a bit more. But we don't talk as often as I do talk to my younger sister.
What kind of conflicts do you have?
Just butting heads, like little things she would do, how she would leave the bathroom, taking clothes without asking me, and
That's
typical
girl stuff. A bad roommate, something like that. Okay. So if how do you think that you're going to decide you're going to graduate when in the spring? So you have to decide like right away.
Yes.
Okay. So how are you going to? How are you thinking? What are you thinking about making that decision? How are you going to do that?
I've honestly been waiting for a divine intervention. Like, God to just tell me what it is I'm supposed to do. I'm still planning on taking the GRE in December, so I feel like that'll be a real big push toward that, even if I end up going somewhere that doesn't need it, just having that first step. I think I would just really have to narrow it down, and I feel like the more research I've been doing concerning public administration, the more sense it's made to me. So I don't want to rush into making that decision because it's only been a couple of weeks since I started thinking about that. But I also think as I take time to reflect on the experiences I've had and what I felt like was most natural to me and what was most comfortable for me would help me with that decision.
So where are you leaning like right now? Are you leaning either way?
I think I'm starting to lean more towards the public administration. Just like I said, having more time to think and consider what's reasonable. But I kind of was leaning toward the education route because I felt it would be easier. And grad school isn't easy either way, for what I've been told. And I feel like public administration would be a really big challenge, but that's what I'm supposed to have. In a sense. So yeah, I think that's what I'm leaning towards.
So what about starting off like part-time grad school as opposed to full-time? Have you thought about that and maybe kind of combining the both?
Yeah, I have, especially considering working and making sure like any research or graduate assistantships that may come along. But my ideal situation would be done in 2 years. Being done with grad school by 2018. Just so I'm not in school for too long or
Oh, you'll be all right. I'm in grad school and I'm 50. So you got lots of time. Have you considered a PhD?
Yeah, my dad has one, so after he got his, it kind of made me think, is that something I want to do? And the thought of writing like a 40-page paper kind of crazy to me. For, yeah, if it's something I'm passionate about, I think it would take me more time to figure out, the experience that I do get between grad school and a PhD. I think PhD would be a little easier because it's something I've had experience with and I'm extremely passionate about.
Okay.
But I do want to eventually, but just not like before 30. Or anything like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So if you were presented with a program that goes like from grad school through all the way to PhD, would you consider that as well? Or are you just, I'm gonna get my master's and,
I think I
Go from
would,
there.
because it was
Sometimes
usually
it can
about
be
5
shorter.
years.
yeah, and then might be a little shorter.
I mean, honestly, 5 years isn't that long of a time. Like, undergrad has gone by so quickly, and that's just 4 years. So I feel like if the opportunity presented itself with funding, which would be really important, I would consider it.
Okay, okay. So what makes you so driven?
I don't know. I'm a very type A person, and I'm very, I don't want to say perfectionist, but one of the biggest things is giving my dad something to be proud of, I
Okay.
think. So, in my first 2 years of high school, my grades were really poor. And not that I couldn't do the work, I was just not focused. And so one day, like, a light bulb went off, and I saw how disappointed he was in me. And so since then, I was very driven to do well. And so that's kind of playing out in my next semester because I had a rough sophomore year. And so by taking a few extra credits and retaking a class, I could graduate with honors in the spring.
Okay.
And I only need 10 credits to graduate, but I've taken on this responsibility to at least try because it would really mean a lot to my dad for me to have that accomplishment. So I do things for myself, but I also like to do things for my parents as well, just
Okay.
because it's such a huge investment, and give them something to kind of be proud of, brag about, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to get really good grades, how you do that, taking on all the extra things that you do? You like your plate full?
I do. I think I've learned in high school, so those first 2 years when I was struggling, I wasn't doing anything but going to school and coming home
Okay.
and getting on the phone, talking to friends, getting on the computer. And once I became involved in yearbook and SEA and the African American Culture Society, having limited amount of time to goof off really made me focus.
Okay.
So junior year, my grades were a complete turnaround, which allowed me to graduate in like the top 15% of my class.
Okay.
So I find the busier I am, the better I do.
Okay.
I thrive off of being busy. Like, I love planning. I love having things to write in my calendar. So I think I really thrive off of it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's too much, and I had a little issue with that my first year as a peer advisor when I was also doing Mason Ambassadors, so giving tours on campus. And I had to make a choice because I was letting some things slip that I shouldn't have.
Okay.
So it hurt me there once, but other than that, I really thrive off of just being busy.
Okay. So what do you do, like, in your little bit of free time you might have?
Relaxing.
Okay.
I started getting my nails done more this semester, so I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
I spend money too easily, but this semester I've been traveling a bit, so going to different universities just to visit friends, or since my sister's at JMU, I went down there for the weekend for their homecoming. But other than that, just hanging out with friends whenever we all can get together. I tend to surround myself with super busy people as well.
Okay.
But yeah, most of the time just going out kind of Thursday, Friday night, Saturday, and then church and like brunch on Sundays.
Okay. So what do you have hobbies, things you like to do? Like, I don't know, ride bike, ski, something?
I like going to the gym whenever I can.
Okay.
I started working out a lot more when I got to school. So I try to go to the gym at least once a week, but it's not easy with my schedule. I binge on Netflix, and
Okay.
hobbies is kind of hard for me because I don't really think I have any. I have things that I do to pass time or to just relax, but not necessarily, not anything like painting
Mhm.
things that people think of when they hear the word hobbies.
Mhm.
It's just like how I relax, I guess.
Okay. You like to read?
I do. Over the summer, I read like 7 books, and that
Okay.
was hadn't read for personal
Right.
enjoyment in years. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
hear ya.
really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to read more for myself, but it's kind of hard trying to read for class.
Okay. So if you were to not go to straight to grad school, what would you fill your time with? Because if you like to be busy,
Mhm.
isn't that gonna pose a issue?
Yeah.
Maybe? What would you do with your time
Well,
to fill it up?
besides working, I think if I had a 9 to 5, that would help a lot. But I still wouldn't want to just come home and do nothing.
Mhm.
I still have some friends who are at home, from high school, and a cousin that I'm very close with. We grew up pretty much together, and we're about the same age, so hanging out with her. But there are a few organizations and community outreach programs back at home that I'm interested in.
Okay.
So I would do my best to get involved with them, and also my dad is considering retiring next year, and we also have a church, so maybe helping him with that could also be something I could fill my time with.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So what would you do at your church? What's kind of a church? What's that community like?
Well, our church is an hour and a half away from home, so
Okay.
my family drives almost 2 hours every Sunday to get
Okay.
to church.
Okay.
And it's a very small church, so they do have some activities and Bible studies and things like that, but not a lot of activities you would think of for most churches, just because the community is so small and a lot of the members are older.
Mhm.
There are some younger kids, but it's usually their grandparents bringing them, so they don't have them during the week,
Right.
just the weekends.
Mhm.
So anything that he's trying to implement there that I could help with, because he's working and also has a church, he can't do as much as he would like to as a pastor.
Right.
So I think that there could be some help needed to kind of start some new things there, or kind of just get things in order, since it's only been a year since
Okay.
we've been at the church.
So he's a pastor then?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he likes to be really busy too.
Oh yeah, that might be where I get it from. He's
Yeah.
also an adjunct professor for UVA and Tech.
Okay.
For the satellite campuses they have in the Hampton Roads area.
Mhm.
And my mom has us. She works, but she also has, my younger sister and the
Yeah.
2 of us away at school. But yeah, my dad's very busy.
How long's your mom been teaching?
Social work.
Yeah.
She's been there about 23 years.
Okay.
So as soon as she officially moved here and she and my dad got married, she started working for them. And she's been in literally the same buildings for,
Forever.
forever.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, how are you close to your extended family? Are you all from down there, or?
My mom's family is from southwestern Virginia, so
Mhm.
kind of borderline North Carolina.
Okay, it's
and
pretty
I'm
there.
Yeah. And it's very rural, so my grandparents still hang their clothes on the line and plant their own vegetables, and my papa, all his siblings live on the same road.
Okay.
And I'm very close with my mom's side of the family, even though they're so spread out. My dad's side, we actually all live within 30 minutes of each other, and we don't communicate really at all.
Okay.
I'm very close with my dad's mom, so my grandma, we talk almost every week. And his dad helped us a lot while we were growing up, getting us to and from after school activities, things like that.
Mhm.
But as far as our aunts, uncles, and cousins goes, I'm very close with my dad's sister and her kids, so my first cousins. But my great aunts and uncles and second and third cousins, my dad doesn't really associate with them
Mhm.
as much. I don't know a lot about that side of the family. It's always been that way. He's very quiet, so I kind of just leave it be.
Okay.
But yeah, they've always been really very local to us, and we stay to ourselves most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So some of the outreach down there that you would volunteer with, you don't go to grad school right away, what kind of things would you do?
So really just community service, so within the community, helping with schools and different neighborhoods that might not have as many resources as the neighboring cities, down there, Norfolk and Portsmouth are really two of the most struggling cities. So
Okay.
doing some outreach in those areas. And again, just helping out with education, so fundraising, things like that.
Okay. Okay, do you have connections in all of those?
I do have some connections, close family friends, some people that my parents worked with. So I know who to go to if I was looking to get involved with
Okay.
that.
Have you talked to any of them yet in your decision to what you
Go.
need to do? Yeah.
Not yet. I haven't really told my parents. I've joked around about it, about
Okay.
wanting to come home, but I
Okay.
haven't officially said, well, I'm really thinking about coming home. Kind of waiting to have that conversation with them in person. Probably over Thanksgiving break. Not sure. Still, we talk even on FaceTime almost every day, and I still haven't said anything.
Okay.
Just because
Okay.
I have to go to my dad with a plan, and if I'm
Okay.
kind of like, well, I'm gonna come home, not sure. It's not, yeah, I pretty much would have to say I already have a job for him to be
Okay,
like,
because
okay.
that's kind of where I was getting
Yeah.
at. You know, maybe something we can do is really think about, just write down pros and cons of each,
Mhm.
and then opportunities for you, or what you would do had
Mhm.
you not worked.
Right.
And maybe we can think about things that maybe you can take a year off.
Mhm.
And if you have an idea of where you want to go to grad school, you can get some kind of program that really fits into some of the things that you might be doing, and maybe that'd be a way to explore that.
Yeah.
Rather than work full-time,
Right.
you know, maybe do a couple different places that have different programs
Mhm.
that might still fit into what your interests are.
Yeah. I
So,
think, yeah, I think that would really help.
okay, so maybe if, like, for homework, I'll give you a little assignment, if you can just kind of start thinking about that.
Okay.
And, so I get a better understanding, so I can help you better. Cause I still need to know a little more detail about the programs,
Mhm.
cause I don't know a lot about what's out there with education and everything. If you can kind of think about maybe the areas that you want to look into grad school with,
Mhm.
and then maybe the areas where you could find work, jobs, volunteering or something that would tie into that.
Mhm.
And then maybe over the next few sessions, we can explore that a little bit, and then maybe by the time Thanksgiving comes and you wanna present your portfolio to your dad, you might have an answer to everything, because I'm sure he'll have a lot of questions for you. So how do you think they're gonna react? Do you think they'll be surprised?
Well, when I mentioned it before, they were very adamant in saying no.
Okay.
But this was before I was really in crunch time, so
Mhm.
this was, over the summer, not really too concerned about it. And it's funny because my dad took about 4 years off between his bachelor's and his master's,
Mhm.
and actually finished his master's like right when my mom was having me.
Oh, okay.
So he took time off, and I try to use that against him. I'm like,
I was
well,
gonna say.
he didn't go, and they're like, that's different, because undergrad was accounting, so there was more he could do as far as having a job, but psychology, it's a
Yeah.
bit more of a struggle, and my mom went straight and got her MSW, so I couldn't really use that.
So what is their concern, that just generally people don't go back, or that you're gonna get a job and you're gonna really like it, not want to do that? Or-
They haven't really said what their concern is. I feel like it's a
Okay.
little bit of everything people ever say. So
Okay.
not really wanting to go back. Psychology degree is hard to get a job fresh out of
Mhm.
college.
Yeah,
And again, finding something and not really wanting to go back and getting distracted
right.
from that.
Right,
So I think it's a little bit of everything.
okay, okay. All right, well, our time is just about up,
Okay.
so this was a good conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you're coming up with next week, and then we can look in a little bit more of really what you want to do and what you can do, and we'll go from there.
Oh.
Hopefully we'll have something good to present to your parents, and that'll go really well, and maybe it'll help you decide really what you want to do. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, and it's really great meeting you.
You too.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And meet next year?
Okay.
Here next week?
Yep,
Okay,
sounds good.
all right, great, thanks.
Mhm.